to move over to cluster mode, as said, cluster mode is if you have one and more charging station inside an installation. What we recommend is to use either your router if you have enough available RJ45 sockets, or if not, to use a DHCP switch in order to connect the wall boxes and the wall boxes. Yeah. So basically, what we did right here is we have the router connected to the switch in order to also provide the internet connection via LAN. And then we have 2 unites connected to the switch. And in our case, we also have the laptop connected to it so that we can in parallel connect to the 2 hotspots of the not the hotspots, to the web UIs of the 2 charging stations that are connected. So the schematic here from the cluster mode is, again, we have basically one hub. We are in static mode now. So first of all, we start with the static mode. So we have one Webasto Unite, which acts as a hub or a master. And then we have several Webasto Unites that are connected as satellites or slaves. And basically, what has to be done is we need a star topology. So we need to connect a set to a switch or a router with RJ45 cables, and we need to have a star topology for this to work. Right. In this case, we can set in the cluster mode static. We can set a maximum charging current for the cluster, not dynamically, basically taking into consideration other consumers in the installation. So we just set maximum current for the cluster, and this maximum current will be distributed to all charging stations that are connected. That's the main principle here. Right. In terms of configuration, as you can see here, as we shown before, we have connected here the laptop to the switch where the 2 charging stations are connected. So basically, we can access the two charging station web UIs simultaneously. Because we want to show you how to configure the master slave or the cluster setup, right? So right here, what you can see is the first charging station with the one ending on 03 with this IP address. So this one's the master. And then on the other tab, we have the second charging station with it will be the slave. So if we go into the configuration mode, we navigate to the local load management. And to activate the cluster mode, we select here load management option as the master slave option. And then we select the charge point role of the charging stations. So as said, we wanted this one to be the master box. So we select it over here. And then we can select maximum current for the cluster, which will be selected here. And so one is, of course, the main circuit breaker. The second one is the so in the installation, the main circuit breaker current is put in here, and then here's the maximum current for the cluster entered. Of course, this needs only to be always to be lower than the main circuit breaker value, and then we could save. And down here, what you can see is the supply type. So if we would have a dynamic type, we would choose something else here. But since we have the static type, we choose static here. And then we have the load management mode, which is basically the algorithm, how the available current is distributed between the charging stations. So for example, equally shared will mean every charger in the cluster will get the same maximum current. And if we have FIFO, for example, the chargers that are connected first will get full will get the full charging current and chargers connected later. And once we over exceed basically the available current, they will be derated in the order basically that they came to the charging or that they started the charging basically. That is what is need to be set up on the master. And then if we switch over to the second one ending with 06, so this will be the satellite or slave wallbox. Right here we also choose the master slave load management option, and then as a charge point role we select slave, and then basically the setup for this one is done. For the satellites. And if we go then back to the load management overview of the master wallbox, then we can go here into load management group. And once we hit update DLM group, it will automatically detect all the chargers that are within the installation and that are basically selected to be slaves. All of the we will see how many are there, and we can hit from this list of connectors here the serial numbers of all the chargers. So if we go here to the load management group, we can see here, okay, these two charging points are here, and we can display general information of these chargers. So we see the MAC addresses, we see the IP addresses, we see how many phases are connected, we see the connector state. These are all display only information. There are only a couple of selections that you can do. So for example, you could for one charging station select the VIP charging here. So that would mean that this charger will always be preferred or will always have a priority when other chargers are derated. This one will always have a priority, and you can select if the installer has done a phase rotation within the cluster. You can select the phase sequence for this cluster over here, so that the charging current is equally distributed between the charging stations. And yeah, as you can see the maximum current, and as said, these are display only information here, but you can always see the real-time data of these chargers over here. So that would basically be how you would set up and configure a static cluster mode.